you're using nature's cues at the end of the day, right? So are you looking at the soil? What are you doing exactly to make those, the difference, I guess? Like what what do you take on that?
So, kind of the way that I look at it is, nature guides the rhythm in everything that we do. And, we fine tune the care for the lawn and or the trees or the shrubs or whatever it has. And looking at it is, I think we've become so accustomed to just looking at a date on the calendar as to what we need to do, when we need to do it, when that's really not even close to what needs to be done. And
Sure.
truly talking about like that environmental sustainability is we need to watch what's going on outside the window. We had snow 2 weeks ago. It was 50 degrees the other day. Being able to look at like freeze thaw cycles and things like that to know when to be reactive or excuse me, proactive instead of reactive makes all of that difference. And
Sure.
being able to take these cues from what we see outside, apply properly, apply eco-consciously, not over apply, makes all that difference when it comes to doing that. It's just really powerful to be able to look outside and, you hear those old things like, oh, when the cherry blossoms bloom, that's when you have to start. But as we go and as I've studied and then, conversations with you, Brandon, we find that just looking out the window, maybe taking a soil temperature test, using some of the technology that we really have at our fingertips allows us to make those responsible decisions where we can go out there and absolutely do the right thing and reduce that herbicide or that pesticide by 75%, reduce that fertilizer by 25%, and really just make it that much better for everybody by just simply understanding and looking outside. You'll hear about some people that I've talked to throughout the industry. They talk about nature's biorhythms and all these crazy stuff, but it really is true. It really does kind of dictate how we should be doing stuff. And it's really kind of interesting when you get into that whole litany of everything that ties into this with the technology, how it really needs to be done and where it's progressing to.
Yeah, no, and I'd have to agree with you 100% on that. It's like, sometimes now in the middle of winter, it is 50, 60 degrees,
Yep.
which is odd, and it's not going to be that way always. It might just be that way this season. But if that's the case, you know that there is some stuff going on in the soil, right? Like it is a time to potentially, hey, you know what? We need to get some structure built in that soil or whatever that looks like. And even though it's the middle of winter, it's like that's taboo, right? Like, oh, you
Yeah.
better not be out there doing anything. Well, I hate to say it, but sometimes you want to be out there at that time for certain reasons. And like you said, nature really does dictate a lot of those things. So
Yeah.
that's
It
cool.
was explained to me like this. You eat dinner before you go to bed. You go to sleep and then you wake up and there's a continental breakfast. And that's kind of the way that the soil reacts. We're not necessarily treating grass. We're treating the soil. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the most important things, understanding how that's working. Yeah, there's no lawn care in the middle of the winter, but there is soil.
And that's the truth, right? Because the things that you're putting in right now are really the food for the microbes, the food for
Correct.
those things, the life of the soil for the spring when it actually wakes up all the way and it's ready to go to work. So that's great. I'm happy you're not starving your soils, buddy.
Never.
That's good. That's good.